It should work like this. Wow, so fast.
Hi and welcome back to Tarsaf Live. Kepada yang baru first time join, selamat datang. Nama saya Muna Nazirah, saya Operation Executive at Tarsaf. So sebelum tu saya nak perkenalkan Tarsaf ni apa. Okay, Tarsaf ni is a software training company. Kita buat training untuk Laravel, untuk buat website, Flutter, untuk mobile apps. Kita buat Ionic juga, and baru ni kita start dengan React Native. So tajuk kita malam ni is React Native kan? Familiar tak dengan React Native ni? Pernah dengar tak? So trainer kita malam ni, okay pernah. Trainer kita malam ni a bit special. He is not from Malaysia tau. Jadi akan ada boundary sikit dalam segi bahasa tu, sebab dia boleh faham bahasa Melayu, cuma kalau nak tanya soalan tu saya minta untuk tanya dalam bahasa Inggeris lah, sebab dia bahasa Melayu dia tak berapa fasih. Okay, jadi kalau nak tahu dia daripada mana, Mr Raafy kita daripada mana, cuba teka dekat chat box tu. Siapa yang teka betul, saya bagi dia 50%. Okay, balik kepada topik kita. Okay, Tarsaf kita buat training, and then sekarang ni we are also a software house. We develop apps, systems and websites. So trainer kita malam ni is Mr Raafy. Mr Raafy is under division mobile apps under React Native. So tanpa membuang masa lagi, sambil-sambil tu fikirlah Mr Raafy ni daripada mana, cuba teka-teka sikit kat chat box kan. Okay, tanpa membuang masa, let's invite Mr Raafy.
Right. Today I'll be presenting the fundamentals of React Native. Fundamentals as in like the tools that's given in the React Native. Let's go on to the contents we'll be covering today. Today we'll be covering what React Native is and what is required to get into React Native. It's not that much, but we'll get into it later. We'll go over installations, then the basic components in React Native, and how to create custom components. We'll go and look at list views and how to create forms and how to navigate inside a React Native app. First, let's start with what React Native is. Okay, React Native is a JavaScript framework for writing real, natively rendering mobile applications for iOS and Android. It is based on React, which is Facebook's JavaScript library for building user interfaces. But instead of targeting the browser, it targets mobile platforms. For this training module, we would be using Expo CLI, as it offers all the fundamental functionalities out of the box and provides a better development experience for individuals who get into React Native initially. We'll move on forward to the prerequisites. It will be very beneficial if you know how to code in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Even if you do not know, but actually have tried it once in a while, if you get the gist of how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript actually works, it will be very helpful. And then optionally and very beneficially, if you know Facebook's React JavaScript library, this would be like the same thing, but for mobile apps. We'll go on to installation. It's very easy. Since we are using Expo CLI, we just need two things actually. It's Node.js, Expo Go, which is the application itself on the phone. Feel free if you guys want to code along with me, please do. Just is there anyone who would like to follow along? Okay, all right. All right. In that case, just head to Node.js and then preferably use the long-term support file. Just download it. Go through. Okay, let's just go through the installation so everyone can understand how actually in the real practical, uh, you'll get how to experience how it really works. So you just oh, I already have installed Node.js, so it failed. So you just follow along everything, and then make sure to select that it's in the path file, your environment variables, and then for the second part, you use it's a mobile application. You go to the App Store or Play Store, and then just type in Expo Go. Um, Let me show you. It should look like this. Once you download it, we can proceed with the next part. Uh, uh, I'll just proceed with the next part. You guys can follow along. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. Once you have downloaded Node.js and installed Expo Go on your phone, you can go to your terminal, which is PowerShell in Windows, and in Mac OS, you can just use your built-in terminal or iTerm. Some people use iTerm as well. So let's create a folder to start the tutorial. We'll just call it tutorial. And then go into tutorials. And then we are going to create the app. This is very important. Make sure you remember this. It's the command to create an Expo app is npx. Npx stands for node package execute. It comes under npm, which is node package manager. But instead of just downloading the package itself, it execute it at the same time. So you write npx create Expo app. And then for this one, we'll just go with example app. And it will generate the app and then generate the app and then download the dependencies, as you can see right now. Once your project is ready, you can just cd into the app project folder and then open it with your preferred code editor. For this tutorial, we're going to use Visual Studio Code. So this is the wait, this is the project structure. You have your assets, the modules you're going to be importing, the packages, external packages, your this is the most important. This is the entry file of the application. And then here we have the specifications for the app, like the name of the app, the version, and the icons and splash as well. So before we move forward, let's go into the basic components of React Native. The most important and the most fundamental component is Vue. It is used for it is the container that supports the layout with, like, let's say Flexbox style. If you heard of if you, like we said before, CSS, if you have used CSS, you have heard of Flexbox. And then it handles some touch handling and then accessibility controls. And then Vue, especially Vue, maps directly to the native view of the platform itself. Since it's a cross-platform framework, let's say it is equivalent to UI view on iOS. For example, if it's HTML, I mean, for the web, it's a div tag, or for Android, it's Android view, and whichever platform we're using. View is designed to be nested inside other views and can have zero to many children of any type, meaning that, for example, like Vue can take on like many different components inside of the Vue component itself. And then views are designed to be used with style sheets initially, but we'll get onto that later. But it also supports inline styles as well. For example, okay, before that, I'm gonna show you how to run the application itself. Is everyone following along? Have everyone downloaded, who are following along, downloaded the Expo Go app? Okay. Once you have downloaded and everything's ready, you can just type in npx expo start to start the application itself, the development server. Once this is done, you will be given a QR. On Android, you can just go into the Expo app and it will give the option to scan the QR. For iOS, for iPhones, you can just scan it with your camera and it will pass on to Expo Go. For this tutorial, I think I'm going to use an emulator so that everyone can see what's going on easier. Once you run it, the Metro bundler will bundle the app and display it on the application itself. This is the initial project that will be generated when you create a Expo app. Once you get this, so let's move forward to the components, the basic components. We were talking about Vue. As we mentioned, we can, you guys can just delete everything for now. I will show you the basic boilerplate of an React Native application. You would usually import React from React. For using the React hooks we'll be using later, and then import. When you import components, we always use this curly brackets, and then we're going to import some components from React Native. And then there are two ways we can write a function. The first way is you can use what's called an arrow function. We give constant application app, and then is equal to arrow function. And then when using arrow function, you always have to export it after you define the constant. As you can see, all the arrows but it's still not rendering anything because it's not returning anything right now. So you have to return open brackets, and then since we're talking about view, we'll import view here first. And then when you write a component, you always write it just like a HTML tag in like greater than and less than signs. Now you would have a blank canvas. Reload. Okay, let's move on. We said that we can put many children inside of the view component itself, so we can create multiple views. Inside of a view. And then we can give it a style by giving it the properties of style, which is for inline styling, we can use like this inside with two curly brackets, and then just give basic style properties like flags. If you guys have used CSS, it's not much far off from CSS. So flags, justify content, align items, it's all the same in here, but the syntax is a bit different. We don't use dash, but instead we use is it Pascal syntax. It's like the first letter would be in lowercase, and the second word of the command would be in uppercase, like justify content.
I think it's called camel case.
Camel case, yeah. Thank you. Justify content, and then align items. As you can see, we can just style it using basic CSS, but in different syntax. And at the same time, we can see here that view can accept many views and other components inside the component, the main view itself. And then one thing to note is that when returning, you always have to have one parent view. If you have a parent container, I mean, if you have two separate parents in the return function, it will give out an error saying that it should be enclosed in one parent component. And then since we're on the note of functions, the other way of writing a function is to write export default is how you write the function in the second way. Preferably, it's cleaner to write it this way, but um, if you're used to the previous way, it's up to you. Actually, there's no difference. Since we have talked about view, let's move on to the next component, which is text. Text allows displaying of text, which is very simple. And then it will also accept styling and touch handling as well. So for example, so if we are importing another component, we always separate it with a comma and then just type the component we're going to import. So that it's visible. Okay. Like we said, it can text components can it supports styling, so we can style using basic CSS. So font size would be like, say 30. Then font weight, I think I need to change the later. But before that, let's just go on with the components first. We'll get into the examples later on. We'll just cover all the basic components first. Next is the image. An image component allows the displaying of different types of images on React Native application. For example, network images, static resources, temporary local images, and etc. And then we would move forward to text input. Text input is like the foundational component for inputting text into the app via a keyboard. We can use props. We will cover props later on. which provide configurability for several features, such as numeric keypad and um, different types of like secure text input. And then the example we will continue later on, but it is foundational for creating forms. The next one is scroll view. Scroll view component is a component that wraps the platform itself, the scroll view of the platform itself, or iOS or Android, while providing the integration with the touch locking responder system. Scroll view renders all the children inside the component at once. Since it does that, it has a performance downside, but we have other ways we can render it using list views. Next is style sheet. Style sheet is a component which is like an abstraction of CSS style sheet. It's often described at the end of the file. So for example, since we have this 6 component, it's almost 100% you're going to see it in every application you're going to create in a React Native application. So these 6 is called the basic components of React Native. But going forward, we're going to look into other components as well for better functionality. Okay. There you go. For an example of, we're going to look into an example of a text component, what it can do. So just give me a sec to. Okay, this is another component. You could see last time when we imported the text, it showed up above here. So it just avoids the notches and everything. So it's avoiding the safe area. So safe area view, it will restrict the container from showing from for different platforms. Like the iPhone has the notch there, so it will go below the areas which cover the application itself. So we're going to use safe area view, and then we're going to import the text. And then inside the text, since it allows nesting, we can import another text. And then we're going to style. Here, this is how we import. We use the style sheet component. Instead of importing it here in the rendering section, we define it below as a different component under the constant styles, so that we can assign it to different components here. And here as well, we use it looks similar like CSS. It is CSS, but it's just an abstraction of it with a different syntax. So to assign the styles, we go here and then we can type in style is equals to styles dot whichever one we have defined here. So for this one, we will go with base text. This one we will put styles dot title text. I apologize because it's having a tough time rendering the application. Like we said, it can be nested inside. Once we give the font family here in the base text, since this is a child, it will inherit the font family of the parent child, the parent component. So let's say we give another text, and the text, if it's inside the parent text component, it will still be under the font family of sans serif. We will move on to images. For images, we can just import image like we did with every other component, and then just type image and then source. If we're using, let's say, these images from here, since it's easy to use and most probably everyone has it since it's generated, you can define it by, first you have to import it. Okay, so that you can give any name here. And then you give the path to the image. And then you can put it as a source. Yes, not all the components, but the components that used in the specific page itself. Like if you don't use the style sheet, you don't really need to use the style sheet. So you don't need to import everything. But whichever you use, yes, you have to import it. And then just like a text component, you can give it styles like but let's say we want to import from a URL. If we want to import from a URL, you just copy the link of the URL, the image link, and then to specify it for, you have to use double curly brackets and then URI and then colon, and then you give the URL in quotations. It will import it into the application. That's the basics for the image. And then we'll go and look into text input. For text input, yeah, I almost forgot to import it. As you can see here, we can click on it and then the keyboard will pop up. Let's say we want to write a password, but it's visible, right? So we can pass in the prop, like we said before, we can pass in props to configure text input. For this one, it will be secure text entry, and then you have to pass it as true. For Boolean values, you have to use curly brackets. Now it will hide the entry. Since you can style it, you can make like rounded corners. And then style it whichever specification that you're looking for. And for text input, we have to use something called the state to get the value from the text input itself, but we will look into it later on. Next, we can look into scroll view. let's say we have like a huge text. It's just scroll view allows it to scroll, and then but for scroll view, the downs oh, I just found the question, so sorry. React Native, it's familiar, I would say. So if you have done HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it would feel much more familiar than Flutter. But if you're more familiar with Java, I would say it would be more easier for with Flutter. It really depends, honestly. Okay. I think we have covered the 6 basic components. So we will move on with creating custom components. Custom components are very important because components, the UI, the React Native UI is built upon components like nested inside each other. And then custom components allow reusability and cleaner code. How long does it take to master React Native? I would say master is a very huge word, but to get familiar with it, I think if you spend uh, a week, I think it would be like second nature to you. But if you spend the whole day doing it, then again, I mean, different people in different paces, you know. Uh, but if you have done React JS, I would say it's much faster. I would say like if you, it's basically React but for mm, mobile applications. So it's just the a bit of syntax differences, not even syntax differences, the components. Since in React you will be using HTML tags, but here they give like view instead of div. Um, Basically like things like that. Yeah, I hope I answered the question. uh Welcome. uh so custom components, let's say you're writing the whole application in one page, it will be very long, right? Like let's say uh, a header component. Header components can be reused, right? So we can make a custom component out of it. Like example, buttons, like let's say customized buttons, we can use it throughout the whole app. So we can create a custom component with that specific button, and we can reuse it again and again inside the application. Um, we can move into an example. When creating components are normally in another folder. We have to create a folder called components. And then inside here, we'll give a name of custom button. And just like in the app file here, we have to create the boilerplate, which is this is a basic boilerplate of a component, as well as most of the components itself. So let's say we want to create a button. Though React Native itself has a button component, it's not very customizable. It's natively produced, so it will form a button that's platform specific. Like for Android, it will be an Android button, but if for iOS, it's going to be iOS button. But if you want to make a specific button, it's better to create your own custom component. So let's say for this one, we can, and this is another component that React Native offers, is called Pressable. Pressable means like it's like a view, but it handles touch, like let's say on press, on long press. We'll get into it while we move forward. To check whether the component is working, we can just import it here first so that we can see it inside the emulator there. So to import a component, you just import it the same way we imported the image here. So custom React Native came before Flutter. It was released before Flutter. It had the way bigger community than Flutter initially, but Flutter, since it's backed by Google, and then it's very source controlled by like a huge organization, it has improved way faster than React Native, and now it's way more popular. Not popular, but it's almost at the same level as React Native. Like React Native is mostly maintained by the community, so it's growing at a slower pace. So, but at this moment, I would say it's almost neck and neck. Yeah, it's if it in terms of performance, um, I would say my personal experience would be that Flutter is easier to be more faster. It depends on how you code it, but since React Native is a lot of packages imported into it from outside, it will be harder to maintain the performance, but it still can be done. I hope I answered the question. Also cross-platform, yeah. The difference between Flutter and React Native is that Flutter, you can code it for the web as well. But since React is already for the web and React Native is for mobile apps, so you have a similarity, but it still do different code bases. You can see that the component is working since we have imported it and assigned it here. So we can get back to styling it. Let's say right now we have created the custom button, right? Since it's a component, we can reuse it again and again. And this whole code, we don't have to write it here again and again. So it's reusable itself. So the next one we're going to look into is props. Props goes hand in hand with creating components. Okay. And it is one of the two types of data that controls a custom component. Defining props allows us to pass data from one component to another easily. For example, we created the button in the previous example just now, but we did not define what the button accomplished. And if the button is going to be used throughout the application, we would not expect the button component to accomplish the same function, right? So this is one of the scenarios where props could be used to pass specific like data into the component. So this is how you would define props for a component. You just pass props into this, and then since hello is given here, so every button is going to say hello, right? So it's not very reusable in this sense. So to work around this, we can just give it like a props dot title, and then pass it to here, and then let's say this one is going to be like submit, and then so it will pass this value into the component, and then it will render that as the title of the button. That's what props do. But it still doesn't accomplish, like, what does it accomplish? It doesn't do anything yet. It's not pressable. It's not doing anything on press. For that, we're going to have to use something called a state. A state is the second way of controlling the data in a component. This now we talk about props, but the props, the values are fixed. So if we want the state, if we want the data to be dynamic inside the component, we have to use a state hook. I'll show you how to use a state hook now, and then what it can accomplish. I'm not really used to the keyboard I have right now, so I'm going to use the laptop. Okay, to define a state, we have to provide it like this. Like, let's say, before that, we need to define what the button do. So we have to pass in a prop called onPress. meaning like what it does once the button is pressed. So we can pass a prop saying that like props dot on press, so that we can pass in the argument from another file. This hook calls the use state from React, the React package, and then it will maintain the difference in data once you pass to it. And then we have to initialize it by giving it an initial value. Since we're putting it as a dark mode and light mode, we're gonna put the initial value as white. How about backend? The backend, as in, if backend React Native supports any backend, you just have to use something called an API fetch, but it's a bit broad to discuss in one session. So we might have to. It's a bit. You have to know the basics. Then we can go into it later on. But with API fetch, you can call to any type of backend, whether it's Laravel, whether it's Node.js, as long as there's a what's it called? An endpoint, you can just connect to it. So there's no constrictions about that. Yeah. So since we have already passed in the props.onPress, we can define what it does. Since this is dark mode, the button is supposed to turn the background to a black background. So we can pass in the props on press is equal to. Oh, this is another thing. If you're defining a function inside of a prop, it's better to use arrow key. I mean arrow function, because it would render faster. But you can use a function, the literal function as well. But for this tutorial, we're going to be using arrow function. For states, instead of setting directly back color this constant into black, we will call this state. As you can see that that's a set state action. So we're gonna take the action and then define it as black. And then we can do the same thing for the light mode button, but change it to white, back to white. So it should work like this. So it will the state is passed on to the main file through the props here. The pressable replies back as like it's being pressed, and then change the state to from white to black when you press the dark mode button, and then from black to white once you press the light mode button. That's how states work. You can pass anything. It can be a boolean, whether it's true or not, with the numbers, anything can be used, but you have to initialize a state. Without initializing, you're not able to use a state. Next, we'll be looking into list views. It's hard to get at first, but if you're like following along and actually type in the code, you'll get really familiar with it in no time. Don't worry. It seems complicated, I understand. Yeah, but it's really not. You have to just type it in and get the practice in. Then it will be like second nature. Okay, flat list. We talked about scroll view just now, right? But the scroll view, the thing about scroll view is because of its it renders all the children inside the scroll view at the same time. There's a performance issue there. So instead, React Native provides you with two list views. First one is flat list. It's just like it says, it's a performance interface for rendering basic flat lists. It's fully cross-platform, optional. It has a horizontal mode as well, and then it can configure viewability callbacks as well. And then there's a lot more, but since okay, like I said, scroll view, since it renders the children, let's say you have a huge list of data, it will take such a long time to render, so we can use a flat list to render those like one by one. As soon as you scroll, it will render one by one, not everything together. So they like it's way more faster basically. Yeah. So for example, we'll comment the other stuff out for now. Before we can actually go into an example, we have to define the data, right? What we're going to render. So we're going to give const data is equal to just for this tutorial purposes, I think 3 would be enough for now. Yeah. And then to, just like any other component, we have to import it. List. So a flat list would take the data we're gonna be rendering. For this one, we have already defined the data here, so we'll import the data from here. The render item. What we have defined here is to render, we are going to render the item in this style and then import it as a component so that it can be rendered once it goes down again, like scroll down. Depending on how long the list is, it will keep rendering it until the end of the file. And then we have to pass in the key extractor for the flat list to know how many items are actually inside the data file we're using. And we're going to use ID since we have given an ID for each of the items here. Okay. I have an issue with the emulator, so let me try it. Okay. Forgot to put in the styles for these. There you go. Okay. So let's say if we add on more data inside, it will keep rendering. So let's say we have a huge data set, and then it will render the whole list, but one at a time, so that it doesn't cause any performance issues. Next, we'll look into section list. Section list, the difference is that every section has their own title itself. I think let me just import the example I have here. Give me a second. Yeah, something like this. Since like main dishes, it has its own like nested data, like pizza, burger, risotto, and then sides. They all have like, it's based on sections itself, but it basically accomplishes the same thing, and because of the performance issue of scroll wheel. I think that will be all we could cover for this session. These are all the basic components you will have to use in a React Native application. If you'd like to see more, you could just let us know, and then we could create another session. We can go forward into like API calls, React navigation, and deep linking, push notifications, things like that. Before we end, I would like to conduct the quiz. I hope everyone is still awake. I hope. Oh, before that, do you guys have any questions regarding what we have covered today? Okay, thank you. Sorry for the complication, for the slow rendering just now. So, yeah, do you guys have any questions? Okay, then I guess we'll move on to the activity for today. We're gonna play a quiz. It wouldn't take a long time. I hope everyone joins. Okay. The answers were there. I hope you guys were there to see the answers. Okay. Okay, join up, guys. Okay, good. It's pretty simple. I think I have covered almost everything, and then some of the things aren't on the slide. Some things I've shown it on the example, so I hope you remember and was paying attention.
Rafi, do you have any link to the game?
Oh yeah. Right. We have 5. Where's the others? Okay, 7, 6. Okay.
So shall we wait like for 10 seconds?
Okay. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, gonna start. Right, we're gonna start. Yeah, is it okay?
I would like to add something.
Okay.
The winner is gonna get 20 bucks. 20 ringgit
Wow. Oh, all right.
will be
Can I
transferred.
join? I'll start. Wow, so fast. Wow, that was fast. Okay. Good.
Can you hear my cats fighting in the back?
Oh no. Hakim slipper. Okay. Oh, I really want that 20 bucks. Hakim's still on the top.
Who Hakims?
Next question. Oh. Someone's catching up to you, Hakim. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Yeah. It might get a bit tougher, so heads up. So ironic. I'm so sorry. Nice. It's a trick question because it's not that. I hope you guys noted this down or actually followed. So wow, okay.
Did anyone actually get that right?
Yeah, Shamsuddin. Who's Shamsuddin?
Good job.
Good job. Okay. Shamsuddin is catching up.
Yep.
Hakim, what happened, Hakim? Okay, the hardest question of all.
Next question.
Yeah.
That was
Good job. Good job, guys.
so. Where's the final leaderboard? Okay, congratulations to Haizat.
Shamsuddin came from the back. Like the comeback was. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Okay, so congratulations to Haizat. Don't forget to snap your profile on Quizzes and DM us on Instagram to claim your prize. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Okay.
And good job. Like two
Yeah.
people actually got the 9th question correct.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, I couldn't even answer that. So I want to thank Mr. Raafy for the sharing session tonight. I hope it will be helpful for those who are starting their journey in React Native or in programming in general. So thank you so much, Mr. Raafy. And I'm going to open like a slide for questions. Sekejap je. Like for like 20 seconds. If you guys don't have any questions, then we are going to end the session. Oh, and I have another question. You guys haven't guessed where Mr. Raafy is from.
Oh yeah.
No. I'm gonna give you a clue. It's a very famous.
That's a too huge of a. It's in Asia.
In Asia. It's really famous among celebrities. Like Malay celebrities love to go there.
Do they?
Yeah, keyword Nilofa.
Okay.
Not UK. It starts with an M.
If you check the list of countries, we're next to each other.
Yep. How do I know? Because I always mispress. Betul, Maldives. Yes.
Tencent.
Sorry.
Mikhail got Tencent.
50 cents. Okay, Mr. Balik, don't forget to claim your 50 cents from me. Okay. So I assume there are no more questions for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope you guys had learned so much from this session. And let me know if you want a like continuation to this video. We can definitely make another session for like API and a bunch of stuff that even I don't understand. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you guys again for the next session at the same time on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Okay, thank you. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye.